The idea of being unattainable captures something deeply rooted in human nature. It is the sense that someone is just out of reach, existing in a space where you can see them, maybe even interact with them, but never fully hold them close. This sense of distance can make a person feel infinitely more alluring than if they were easily accessible. It is a phenomenon that taps into desire, self-esteem, and social dynamics in a profound way. People have tried to interpret and harness this idea in countless ways, whether through flirting, relationship advice, or social media persona building. The notion that playing hard to get, or simply being elusive can amplify how much someone wants you, has been around for a very long time. In a world where everything feels so connected, ironically, it is often the ones who appear distant or unattainable that spark our deepest intrigue. Psychologists and social researchers have explored this attraction to what seems just out of reach. There is a part of the human mind that becomes more engaged when something requires effort or uncertainty. It is the same principle behind why we might spend hours on a puzzle or a game. It is also why some relationships take on a magnetic pull when the other person is not entirely available. That unavailability might be emotional, physical, geographical, or even purely imagined. Something within us craves the sense of challenge, and the mind interprets the obstacle as proof of high value or uniqueness. The result is an increased sense of investment. The more unattainable a person feels, the more we might be willing to put in the work to gain their attention or affection. In romantic scenarios, the concept of being unattainable shows up in countless forms of advice, some cliched, some based in genuine psychology. You might have heard someone say you should not text back immediately, or that you should maintain an air of mystery. While these suggestions might sound like mere game playing, they tap into a deeper dynamic. We live in a world that demands rapid responses. Messages fly back and forth, social media updates arrive every second, and a phone call can reach us at virtually any time. In this constant connectivity, a person who chooses to respond slowly or remain somewhat elusive can be intriguing. That slight uncertainty prompts questions. Am I not interesting enough for them? Are they busy with something more important or exciting? Am I about to lose my chance? These doubts can spark a heightened sense of attraction, fueled by our natural desire to secure something valuable before it slips away. Yet the allure of unavailability is not confined to romance. Consider the professional world. The job you cannot quite land, or the mentor who's just out of your league, can become a powerful motivator. You might chase that job opportunity, go for extra training, and refine your interview skills for months. Sometimes you find that the more you chase, the more the position seems to hover just beyond your grasp, and that very distance can strengthen your resolve to get it. Human psychology has a knack for interpreting challenge or scarcity as a marker of worth. If it is rare, we must want it, or so the thinking goes. This does not necessarily mean the job or the person is actually better for us. But the sense of difficulty can weave an almost hypnotic appeal. One layer beneath this phenomenon is the role of self-esteem and personal boundaries. Being unattainable does not always come from playing mind games or seeking attention. Sometimes it stems from a person's own sense of self-worth and clarity about their priorities. People who know their value, keep high standards, and invest in their own lives tend to exude a natural sense of unavailability. Their time and emotional energy are not thrown around lightly. They might be selective about their commitments, or they might simply be busy pursuing their dreams. Others perceive this self-possession as a form of distance or mystery. Instead of responding to messages right away, they might be too engrossed in their goals. Instead of bending over backward for every social invitation, they consider whether an outing aligns with their personal growth or well-being. The result is that others begin to see them as someone who is secure, someone not easily swayed or won over, and that can be mesmerizing. On the flip side, there can be a darker, more manipulative side to the act of being unattainable. Some individuals learn that withholding affection or availability can give them an upper hand in relationships. By rationing their time and attention, they create a power imbalance. The other person chases harder, invests more, and often ends up feeling insecure. This can create a cycle of dependency and confusion. If someone perpetually sends mixed signals, one moment they are warm and engaged, and the next moment they vanish, it can cultivate a psychological bond driven by hope and desperation. The feeling of unpredictability can become addictive, much like a slot machine that only pays out occasionally. In these circumstances, being unattainable shifts from a natural byproduct of self-confidence to a conscious tactic of control. Reflecting on personal history can reveal instances where we have been drawn to someone we perceived as unattainable. Perhaps it was the classmate who never seemed to notice us, the co-worker who was always too engrossed in their own projects to socialize, or the friend who maintained an unspoken emotional wall. Sometimes, the lack of accessibility or the presence of mystery made them loom larger in our imaginations. We began to fill in the blanks with idealized qualities, attributing depth or complexity to them, simply because we did not have all the information. This dynamic can cause us to project our hopes, fears, or fantasies onto the other person, making them more intriguing than they might actually be. When we finally break through that wall, we may be thrilled to discover we read them correctly, or we may be disappointed to learn that the reality fails to match our imaginative leaps. Culture and media also play a significant role in the mystique around being unattainable. Many Hollywood films, novels, and music videos perpetuate the trope of the distant or brooding love interest. These characters can be emotionally closed off, physically removed, or socially aloof. Their inaccessibility feeds the story's tension, compelling the protagonist and the audience to unravel their hidden layers. We see them time and again: the sullen hero, the aloof woman with a secret past, the charming but elusive free spirit. This character type resonates because it mirrors something in our own experience, a universal attraction to what seems beyond reach. By watching fictional scenarios of pursuit and eventual emotional breakthrough, we reinforce the idea that distance can be conquered, and that, in the conquering, love or satisfaction becomes even sweeter. From a psychological standpoint, what truly happens when we find ourselves attracted to the unattainable? One theory highlights the interplay of reward and anticipation in our brains. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and motivation, surges when we experience or anticipate a reward. The chase for someone unattainable is ripe with anticipation. We imagine the possible future in which they become ours, or in which we prove ourselves worthy. We daydream about how special that moment of validation would feel, as we inch forward, sometimes seeing small signs that we might be making progress. We get further bursts of dopamine, reinforcing the pursuit. Because the end outcome remains uncertain, the neurological effect can be more potent than if we knew their affection was guaranteed. This unpredictability keeps us hooked, pushing us to expend emotional or practical effort, even if the logical part of our mind might question whether it is worthwhile. While there are clear psychological and biological underpinnings to the appeal of being unattainable, it is worth pausing to consider the emotional toll. If you have ever taken on the role of the pursuer, you know the feelings of anxiety and self-doubt that can arise. You might replay interactions in your mind, overanalyzing their small gestures, the timing of their messages, or their tone of voice, searching for clues to their true feelings. You can become so consumed by the quest that you lose sight of your own emotional needs, becoming reactive instead of grounded. On the other side, if you are the unattainable person by virtue of your boundaries or lifestyle, you might not realize the emotional confusion others can experience around you. Although it might be flattering to be admired from afar, it can also create misunderstandings or tension if you do not communicate your personal limits clearly. Maintaining authenticity while grappling with the allure of unavailability can be challenging. Some people intentionally adopt a distant or mysterious persona, hoping to garner attention or seem more interesting. They might drop cryptic hints on social media, leave messages unanswered for extended periods, or maintain a veneer of busyness that may not reflect their true circumstances. This approach can attract interest, but it also risks building superficial connections. If the unattainable image is merely an act, people who are drawn in may feel misled or frustrated once the facade slips. Furthermore, constantly policing your behavior to remain distant can become exhausting. Authenticity and genuine connection usually require openness and vulnerability, qualities that might contradict the polished image of someone who remains perpetually out of reach. In certain phases of life, becoming somewhat unattainable can be a byproduct of self-discovery. Imagine someone who is in a growth period, pursuing an advanced degree, traveling the world, or delving deeply into a creative pursuit. Their priorities revolve around personal development, and they have less time or interest in forming immediate attachments. They might not be playing hard to get in a manipulative sense, they genuinely have goals that take precedence. In these situations, being unattainable stems from a sincere investment in oneself. Others might feel intrigued by this single-minded focus. There is a quiet allure in meeting someone who is driven and content with their own life, so much so that they are not constantly seeking validation or partnership. People in this category do not necessarily reject closeness altogether. They simply shape their lives in a way that demands careful selection of emotional investments. This leads to a broader theme. Being unattainable can serve as a filter. Those who respect your boundaries, understand your aspirations, and see beyond the aura of distance often prove themselves to be aligned with your values. People who expect instant gratification or unrelenting availability might grow impatient and fade away, which can be a blessing if your lifestyle does not mesh with theirs. Having strong personal boundaries that create a sense of distance is not inherently negative. It can become a powerful method of self-care and self-selection of the right relationships, provided you are clear and genuine about the reasons for your unavailability. It can be helpful to reflect on the difference between healthy unattainability and manipulative distancing. Healthy unattainability arises from authenticity. You may be genuinely busy, you may be passionate about certain endeavours, or you may have experienced heartbreak that makes you more cautious. Even so, you communicate your stance in direct or respectful ways, allowing others to understand your perspective. Manipulative distancing, however, typically involves a strategic withholding of communication or affection, with the aim of exerting control or provoking a stronger chase. People who use manipulative distancing often rely on inconsistency and emotional push-pull to keep others on the hook, oscillating between intense warmth and sudden coldness. This pattern can cause confusion, anxiety, and a deep craving for validation in the pursuer. In a podcast or conversation about the psychology of being unattainable, it might be tempting to cast it in purely negative or positive light. Yet the truth is more nuanced. Many of us have found ourselves in both roles, pursuing someone we perceive as elusive and stepping back from others when we need time or independence. Sometimes we do both simultaneously in different areas of our lives. Perhaps we're entirely available in our professional sphere, diving into every meeting or collaboration, but choose to remain somewhat aloof romantically, or vice versa. Personal history, temperament, and life circumstances all shape how we negotiate our availability. The concept also intersects with deeper questions about self-esteem. When we believe in our own worth, we are less likely to chase desperately after someone who does not reciprocate our energy. We also do not feel compelled to adopt a false sense of elusiveness to prove our desirability. Instead, we move through social and romantic spaces with a balance of self-assurance and openness. We can still be selective, but it feels more like a reflection of personal authenticity rather than a game. On the other hand, if our self-esteem is shaky, we might become trapped in pursuits that erode our sense of self, or we might overcompensate by trying to appear unattainable out of fear that being truly seen would expose our vulnerabilities. Understanding these dynamics can help us step back and ask whether a particular pursuit is serving or undermining our emotional well-being. If we find ourselves chasing someone unattainable, we might pause to reflect on what is truly driving that chase. Is it genuine admiration, or are we drawn to the challenge itself? If we are cultivating an aura of unavailability, we might ask whether we are doing it for honest reasons, like maintaining our boundaries or focusing on personal goals, or whether we are using it to provoke a reaction. Honest introspection can clarify which path leads to growth and which path leads to a cycle of frustration or confusion. Another interesting angle is how technology amplifies or moderates the sense of being unattainable. Social media can create illusions of access. You can see someone's posts, stories, or updates in real time, feeling a superficial connection. Yet they might never respond to your direct messages, or might offer cryptic updates that reveal nothing of genuine substance. This digital dance can heighten fascination. People may become fixated on analysing every post or comment, hoping for a clue about that person's inner life. In many ways, the digital persona can be perfectly curated to present just enough to spark interest, while still withholding real intimacy. This modern phenomenon underscores that being unattainable need not be restricted to in-person interactions. The allure of distance can operate in the online realm with equal, if not greater, intensity. In the context of long-distance relationships, the psychology of being unattainable takes on a more tangible form. Physical separation naturally creates an element of distance. People might idealize each other simply because they do not have the everyday closeness that can reveal flaws or mundane habits. Absence can indeed make the heart grow fonder, but it can also obscure reality. When you finally close the distance, you may discover aspects of the other person that you never imagined. In the interim, the unattainable nature of the relationship can fuel daydreams or emotional intensity. Some couples flourish under this dynamic, while others find that it fosters unrealistic expectations. The intangible factor of distance can push each person to question whether they are longing for the actual individual or for the fantasy built up in their mind. Self-reflection becomes critical in passing out these dynamics. If a person in your life appears unattainable, consider what your motivations are in pursuing them. Ask yourself how you feel when you interact with or think about them. Do you feel inspired, motivated, or excited by the challenge? Or do you feel anxious, insecure, or consumed by a need to prove something? Conversely, if you find yourself adopting a distant stance, ask whether it aligns with your authentic values. Are you busy because you truly have other priorities, or because you fear closeness and vulnerability? Are you establishing healthy boundaries, or are you using distance to control how others perceive you? It can be liberating to recognize that being unattainable is not universally good or bad, but a dynamic with multiple layers. Authentic unavailability might reflect self-respect or genuine responsibilities. Contrived unavailability can become an exhausting facade that strains your relationships and mental well-being. By tapping into honest self-awareness, you can determine which side of the line you're walking. This is particularly relevant in modern dating culture, where game-playing is sometimes normalized. The repeated refrain to never appear too interested can erode the potential for real connection if taken too far. Some individuals may grow weary of the guessing game and prefer someone whose availability feels genuine rather than contrived. In the broader sense of personal development, the psychology of being unattainable can inspire conversation about the value of self-prioritization. In a world where we are told to hustle, to answer emails right away, and to be present on every platform, stepping back and protecting your time can feel radical. This type of unavailability can be a form of self-care. When done mindfully, it signals that your mental space, creativity, or well-being cannot be constantly at the mercy of others' demands. People might find you more alluring if you maintain this stance, but the real victory is in caring for your own inner landscape. You build a life that is worth living, whether or not someone else is in the picture. When reflecting on all these aspects, romantic attraction, professional advancement, social dynamics, self-esteem, and authenticity, it becomes clear that unattainability is a concept deeply interwoven with how we connect, aspire, and define our personal boundaries. It can serve as a mirror, revealing our deepest desires, insecurities, and growth opportunities. It can also spark controversy, as individuals debate whether distance fosters deeper fascination or merely complicates potential bonds. Yet the universal truth remains. Humans are drawn to what they cannot easily have. The puzzle piece that does not fit, the door that will not open, the person who does not reply the way everyone else does. These mysteries can captivate us and drive us to learn more about ourselves and others. Every so often, you may look back on a period in your life when someone unattainable captured your mind, or when you realized you were the elusive figure for someone else. These memories often stand out because of their emotional intensity. They can be joyful, painful, or a bewildering blend of both. In hindsight, you might recognize how your self-perception shifted, how your confidence grew or wavered, and how your social or romantic strategies evolved. Sometimes, those experiences teach us the importance of not chasing illusions or of not shutting people out. Other times, they reinforce the idea that respecting your own boundaries is essential, even if it makes you appear distant. Ultimately, the psychology of being unattainable comes back to the interplay of longing and limitation. The hearts and minds of those involved can be illuminated by seeing how they respond to that elusive gap. Do they yearn and chase? Do they reflect inwardly? Or do they walk away to find something more immediately tangible? Each choice brings its lessons. The dynamic can be both exhilarating and cautionary, highlighting our capacity to project fantasies onto others and exposing the subtle manipulations we might engage in or become subject to. The best approach is a balanced awareness of the forces at play. the nerve-jangling allure of the unknown, the gratification of sincere connection, and the risk that distance can become either a toxic game or a healthy boundary. For anyone intrigued by this topic, a natural next step is self-observation. Notice how you react when you sense unavailability, whether you are the one radiating it or encountering it in someone else. Question whether it fosters genuine respect and personal growth, or pushes you into patterns of doubt and anxiety. This reflection is not meant to eliminate the excitement of mystery from your life, but rather to ensure that mystery remains in service of authentic connection and self-respect. You might still choose to remain selectively unattainable, or you might wish to be more transparent with your emotional availability. Either way, understanding the psychology behind it can empower you to make that choice consciously. As we close this exploration, we see that the psychology of being unattainable stretches well beyond simple dating strategies or a how-to manual for capturing attention. It touches on identity, self-worth, emotional patterns, and social signals. It can help create distance that fosters respect, or it can tip into harmful game playing that leaves people feeling confused or undervalued. Recognizing the nuanced layers behind why we chase, why we hold back, and why we interpret distance as a sign of value provides a richer view of our shared humanity. These insights can lead us to form deeper, more mindful relationships, where the space between ourselves and others becomes a meaningful boundary rather than a manipulative barrier, and where genuine closeness blooms when the time and the connection feel truly right.